Hello, loves. Eman here. Today I'm talking about my addiction to intensity. It's about the solar plexus chakra. It's about the power pattern. It's about how sometimes we confuse being on fire with being in our power. But what if the fire is just burnout? What if all that overdoing is just a survival strategy? Not your truth, not your essence. Hmm. When I think of the solar plexus or this power center, I think of the ways I try to take up space without truly inhabiting it. I wasn't raised to know what confidence rooted in the body felt like. So instead, I try to earn worth through excellence. I was a good girl. I was the best student. I was the swimmer, the champion, the best in whatever I could, the overachiever. And underneath that all, I was burning. And I can't say it was only childhood. No, a lot in my adult life too. So I remember times I'd take on much more than what I could hold. I was committing to things and feeling secretly resentful and proud also of how much I could endure. And that's what I mean by addicted to intensity. Every good cause, I'm there. I will help you. I will show up. I will be here. I'm showing up for everyone. And that gave me a sense of importance. So if I wasn't doing, helping, fixing, leading, proving, I didn't feel real. Yeah, anyone. Even in spiritual spaces, I chased activation and I mistook overwhelm for awakening. I was constantly over caffeinated. I don't drink coffee anymore. I was always overcommitted and under resourced. I didn't even know what that meant. I called it devotion, but really, I didn't know how to stop without guilt. I had very serious boundary issues, and that was always leaving me angry. And I didn't even know that that was the case. This wasn't power, it was compensation. It was, again, survival. And it came from a deep fear, the fear of not existing, of being invisible or insignificant. That wouldn't mean anything if I'm not putting effort on. And that's the fear that lives in the third chakra, this fear of self-definition, the terror of not knowing who you are without your roles, your image, your control, all the titles, all the things you fought so hard to have. So recently I was hearing a podcast of, I believe I'm pronouncing his name right, Luis Mojica. I admire his work, and he's also a fellow somatic experiencing practitioner. And it really struck me a deep chord. In one of these latest podcasts, I can't really remember the name, he said, it's really easy to see ourselves as our trauma responses and to create identities from them. So, for example, somebody stuck in a fight response might call themselves, I'm a bad, or a fighter. I'm a fighter. And someone stuck in a phony response, in a people pleasing response, they will be the one who is always people pleasing. They call themselves, I'm the nice one, I'm the peacemaker, I'm the empath. And not to say that everyone calls themselves empath or in this situation, it's just an example. And some people stuck in the freeze response, they call themselves, I'm unmotivated, I'm lazy, I'm depressed. But none of those things is actually you in your essence. It's something that our body is doing, and over time we start identifying with it and even creating that identity title, the label, the reasons why we're trying to validate having it or doing the behaviors come from actually trauma responses. So this really hit me hard when I read it because it reveals how often we confuse our survival strategies with our true nature. Knowing our essence and our trauma response is not as clear as we may think. That's why I offer my coaching this somatic support, because I didn't know I wasn't authentic. I didn't know I was on trauma response. I wasn't acting from my essence. So in the solar plexus, what looks like strength can sometimes be a shield, an identity that we formed that helped us because we feel powerful when we were actually powerless. The solar plexus is a seat of identity and self-worth, and trauma hits hard on our worth. So it's sacred right. It's the right to act, to choose. This is in our power definition. It defines ourselves from within. And that right, when it's wounded, we collapse, we stay small, we overcompensate, we perform and dominate. We abandon ourselves through the addiction to doing, proving, controlling. And we don't show up for ourselves in the same way we show up for others sometimes, a lot of times. So the addictive pattern here is that overexertion, the drive to push past limits, override needs, is that to not really show up to our inner self, is to manipulate this energy to avoid vulnerability. And that can show up as burnout, control, spiritualized urgency, or even emotional reactivity masked as truth telling. From the somatic experiencing perspective, this dynamic often stems from coupling patterns. And for many of us, power became overcoupled with urgency. Power became overcoupled with fight, with stress, with performance. And in trauma, the nervous system learns to associate this high activation with survival. Even when it no longer serves us, it's still stuck there. So we unconsciously recreate this intensity to feel real or to feel worthy. And at the same time, elements that should naturally support self-agency, like breath, internal sensations, rest, may become undercoupled, disconnected from our sense of identity. I like to call myself an uncoupling coach because I work a lot on this overcouple and undercouple in my coaching with my clients, not necessarily from relationships, but internal relationships. So true power doesn't strive, it doesn't perform, it doesn't chase intensity to prove it exists. Many of the roles that we identify with are just trauma responses. So when we release the trauma from our body, what remains is not emptiness. And sometimes we get scared of what's going to happen if it's gone. I'm going to be empty. There's nothing there. But it's actually the quiet truth of who we are beneath the shield, our essence. I get so excited talking about it because true power is embodied, is breath meeting boundary, is the quiet yes, is the steady no. It's feeling the impulse to overgive and choosing to stay with yourself instead. It's slowing down to notice when you were about to go with your usual yes. I began to find power when I let go of this urgency, when I learned to slow down, when I started listening to the difference between aligned action and adrenalized reaction. When I stopped needing to be seen as capable and practiced staying present with the discomfort instead of escaping into action. So here is a somatic practice of boundary. I find it super helpful. It's inspired by consent work and coupling awareness. And it's to help reconnect you with your right to act. So let's do this. It's a yes or no felt sense scan. So sit comfortably. You may pause this video, come back to it later. And just take a few breaths to land in your body now. And bring your mind to a very simple question. Something that it's a clear yes. Like, would you like a glass of water now? Would you like to go outside now? Well, I do. I would like a glass of water now. So I'll say yes, slowly and out loud. Iman, would you like a glass of water now? Yes. And then notice the physical sensations in your body, your belly, your chest, your jaw, your shoulders. Feel like some fizziness. Notice a little expansion. Do you notice any expansion too? Or tension, relief, any bracing? How easy was this yes for your body, not for your mind, for your body, the sensations. And now let's try with the no. Say no out loud and observe again. Would you like a glass of water, Iman? No. Oof. What tightens? What softens? I notice a tightness right here, my solar plexus. Oh, my breath got constricted. Which one feels more familiar or safer? For me, it was a yes. Which one feels less accessible or more charged? Right now, for me, it was a no. So, has your system been conditioned to say yes by default? Does no feel dangerous or disappointing? This simple tracking helps restore the solar plexus right to choose. And this awareness that's priceless, to be self-aware, to have this power back, the responsibility. It brings awareness to the subtle ways we override ourselves and begins the slow return to sovereign action. I hope this tool was helpful for you. I use it regularly. It's very helpful for me. I love to use it. If you ever felt confused about intensity with aliveness in any matter, sexual or not, if you have mistaken performance for power or urgency for value, this is your medicine. It's a power module of Elemental, my program that addresses these energetical patterns. We name the survival patterns that live in this fire: control, overdoing, anger, self-betrayal. We meet them not with shame, but with breath and clarity, with the sacred remembering that your worth does not increase with your output. And if you're not sure if you have any pattern, and or even with what I share, you're still not sure if that's you, but you want to know, you may want to take the quiz. I put a link here. It's also my website, eman.coach. It's called integration map, and it helps you to locate your dominant patterns. And if this message resonates with you, send it to someone who is learning to soften their fire too. Yeah. No, the power doesn't need to shout. It just needs to be yours. Thank you so much for your time and attention. And yep, I'm here with you. See you later.